Hello, my name is Devavani Chatterjea. I'm an associate professor of biology at Macalester College in St. Paul, Minnesota, where I teach immunology and do research with undergraduates and direct the program in global health. The person who has probably been the most influential in my career is my first undergraduate biology professor, Stan Rashootan. Before I stepped into Stan's classroom and his ecology and evolution lab at Mount Holyoke College, I loved biology, but I had naively seen it as sort of this collection of neat, wondrous facts about the living world and loved it for that. But stepping into that classroom, stepping into that lab, for the first time, I realized that biology and science, by extension, is really about what we don't know and how we ask questions. And that just really opened up a whole new world for me. And I think that's when I decided that I wanted to be a scientist, I wanted to be a biologist, and all the other plans I had before that, they sort of went out of the window right there, and I started on this journey. For me, personally, the best piece of advice that I didn't take, though I'm not sure I would describe it that way, was went something like this. I went to a small liberal arts college. I went to Mount Holyoke College, and that was a transformative experience for me. And as I said earlier, my decision to become a scientist was very much influenced by the experiences I had there. And so I always wanted to teach at a place much like Mount Holyoke, and I do teach now at Macalester College in Minnesota, which is also a small undergraduate liberal arts college. And I know I wanted to have an active research program at a small school. And one piece of advice I got along the way was that I should think about doing research in an area that was easily amenable to a small place without much infrastructure, that could be done, with small amounts of resources or money. And I did not take that advice. I wanted to do big science, and I wanted to do things that maybe I wouldn't have a chance to do at a small place. And so I worked I did my training at medical school, so I did a postdoc at a medical school. I worked for a couple years in industry and doing things that I knew for sure I wasn't going to be able to continue to do. But I'm very glad I did that, because that really broadened my mind, broadened my skills, broadened my imagination. And then when I went to a small place where I am now, I still am not afraid to dream big. And so it was good I didn't take that piece of advice for me. How has science changed since I was a trainee? I think this change was already starting to happen when I was a trainee, but I think the focus on integrative systems thinking, which in a way in immunology we've always had to do. Immunology is a very multidisciplinary field within biology. It is at once basic and applied, and really draws on many different subdisciplines of biology. And I think that that kind of thinking, that kind of intellectual framework, conceptual framework, is now becoming prevalent no matter what kind of biology you're doing, because we've had a lot of information that has come from decades of reductionist work and very careful, critical analytical work that we've dissected mechanisms at a very intricate level. But now we're starting to put all that together and kind of appreciate cells, organisms, tissues, functions, health and disease states as these emergent properties that are so much more than the sum of the parts. And the focus on systems thinking in biology, the focus on emergent properties in biology, I think has been one of the big changes since I was a trainee. What advice would I give to a young scientist? Dream as big as you can and do what you love, do what you're passionate about. But remember that science is not isolated from human experience. It is one of the most beautiful, rigorous, amazing ways in which humans search for meaning, right? We search for meaning in the universe. We wonder about where we've come from, who we are, where we're going, what we're doing. And science is not cold and clinical and, isolated from all of that at all. So perhaps it's a romantic notion of science, but it's one that works for me. And, it's one that really helps me through the inevitable times when doing science is like watching paint dry. and that thing just never comes together. That experiment just never works out, or, and it's real test and patience and determination and persistence. But through all of those things, if you're following what you love, if you're doing what you love, if you care about it deeply, then that works. It pulls you through. And it gives you gifts that are just amazing. What brings me joy? Many different things. My family brings me a lot of joy. My work, I get to do science. I get to be a scientist. I get to work with wonderful, bright, talented young people. That brings me a lot of joy. And well, this is going to probably sound a little predictable, but I think the beauty of the natural world, that brings me a lot of joy. And it isn't just sort of the majesty of things like the mountains or the ocean or the grand things, but even the littlest things. And being a biologist, you get to spend a lot of time thinking about the little things. I think that's one of the perks of the job. That brings me a lot of joy.